Okay. Boom shakalaka. I've been waiting for this moment for like ever. Hugo, my brother.
Hey, man.
It is good to finally have you on the Crucial Journey podcast. I'm a fist bumper. How you doing?
I fisted you. Yeah.
Well, off to an interesting start. I've just been fisted by Hugo, everyone. I feel privileged. Hugo, this is gonna catch you off guard, but one of the reasons I started doing my podcast, was because I wanted to interview amazing people like yourself, and I remember a conversation we had some time back with Damien, and it was very unrehearsed. And strangely enough, I had this camera that I didn't know was recording, and it recorded us accidentally having a really cool organic conversation about metaphysics, history. You were dropping knowledge on Aristotle, knowledge about esoteric stuff. We're talking about ufology. And I remember a few days later I found out that it recorded, and I was listening to this stuff, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. This is awesome. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if we did something like this again?
Yeah.
And a few years later, it kind of spawned into this podcast, which I have now. And
wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's just an informal conversation where I get to pick the brains of enlightened souls like yourself.
So it started with surreptitious, subtle spying strategies.
Oh, don't use surreptitious. It was I wasn't doing it on purpose. Maybe subconsciously I wanted to record you because one thing I've always admired about you is that when you speak, I tend to talk a lot, right? But I actually want to shut up and listen. And you have this way of expressing yourself, and I would just be glued on to everything that you were saying. So I'm sure, like many of the guests are going to be throughout this podcast, they're going to be very eager to hear what you have to say. Because for those that aren't aware, Hugo is a musician, he's a rapper, he is an enlightened intellectual, and he has been tied into doing some many amazing things through the interwebs, which I'm sure you're all aware of. You may know him as General Baxter, maybe, a few other names. Rap News, if you guys are familiar with that, you've probably seen him on it. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get straight into this thing. Peace out.
Let's do it.
And buckle up, bitches, as Joe Rogan would say. I'm a big fan of his. Get ready for a ride, y'all. Okay.
Is that what Joe Rogan says?
That's what he says. Alright, you can face me, man. I know you're gonna want to watch it.
I do.
The camera's gonna be recording you.
Okay.
Water can flow, or it can
Start off with your huge feature video. You
Oh,
can watch this. I'm just gonna give people insight into some of your works. I've shared this so many times, not because I'm sharing it because I want to help you, but I feel compelled to share this because it's such a work of art.
Pilgrim, riding out of the dust clouds,
Welcome.
wrecked from the trek, in the saddle I'm slumped down. It's sundown, and the orange orb at my back casts a silhouette as I purposefully stalk past the domes and past minarets, the monasteries, the spires of the churches, the cathedrals, the casinos, the bonfires, the hearses, the circuses, the businesses, the shrines, the workers, the statues, the avenues, the finite circuits, to arrive further towards the sight which inspires my higher purpose, an altar before which I falter before falling in divine service. None of the teachings of the preachers effectively entered my mind's furnace, nor did any wealth tempt me more seductively than this siren.
I thought I'd just give everyone a little teaser, man. The thing is very long, but
it's long.
I seriously recommend everyone checks this out. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of art I've ever seen expressed within 8 minutes.
Which result.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey.
here we are. You get to see Hugo up close and personal. You get to see my beautifully handsome... Actually, I look really weird at the moment. It's because I was about to get my hair braided today, and I didn't get a chance to fully do it, so I kind of look as if I have white hair, as us black folks like to call it at the moment. It's very silky.
White hair.
Well, yeah, it's very... I mean, usually my hair is all curly.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Very Afro-like, but at the moment, it's...
Do you ever feel like going Questlove, just having the full fro?
Yes. The guys love the fros, and some of the girls do as well, but I try to keep it more slick. That's why I get the cornrows done.
The cornrows look great, man. When you got those in, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like your hair too, man.
Thanks, man.
You're rocking the Rastafarian kind of look.
I wouldn't feel I had the right to use that word personally, but yeah, I'm trying to rock it. I guess I've had these things in my hair for about, wow, it's a long time now, about 14 years.
Okay.
So I've kind of paid the time dues, but yeah, it's definitely not a Rastafari thing. I want to respect to those guys. But.
When you say you want to, I would think that they'd be more respected if you adopted their religion. You don't feel as if it's right for you to call yourself a Rastafari?
I don't know. I guess not. No, I wouldn't say that. No, I think and I don't want to so early on in the podcast expose my ignorance, but I don't know that much about the religion, and it wasn't because of that I sort of adopted their hairstyle.
Yeah. I don't know too much about it myself. I know it deals with Haile Selassie or something like that.
Sure. There's I mean, he's an Ethiopian king, and
that's right.
The incarnation of God, the Godhead on the planet. Which fine, great.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But I don't know. We'd have to wiki it.
Yeah.
Can we stop the podcast and just wiki it?
It actually crossed my mind, because one of the things I love doing on this is keeping things real and legit.
Yeah, sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let's try to educate y'all and find out about Rastafarianism, because from my understanding, it is quite a beautiful religion. I know they believe in peace, love, and lots of marijuana smoking.
Right.
Okay, Rastafari. Let's have a look at that. See what we get. See if you can read this for me, because
I can read it.
All right.
Well, when it comes up.
I'm just gonna switch over to this thing over here. So
Who's that?
Oh, yeah, we just happened. That's so weird. We just happened to be one of my friends' page. Don't worry, Tessa. I'm not stalking you. I just happened to be on your page. Yeah, strangely, I was actually showing Hugo what he thought about his piece. Oh, first entry?
Yeah. Good old Wikipedia.
Good old Wikipedia. Gotta love that stuff. All right. So I know Babylon is a big thing with Rastafarianism. Babylon, yeah. Me Babylons. I always like to say that. References to my favorite part of the female form. At any rate,
righto.
You want to read that for us?
So, the Rastafari movement is an African-based spiritual ideology that arose in the 1930s in Jamaica.
Right, man.
It is sometimes described as a religion, but is considered by many adherents to be a way of life.
I like that.
Its adherents worship Haile Selassie I, Emperor of Ethiopia. Yeah. Some as Jesus in his second advent, or as God the Father. Amazing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we won't go too much into the tenets of Rastafarianism, but from my understanding, you see, religions, at least according to the works of Mark Passios, this guy that I've gotten really into the works of, if you have a look at the etymology of the word religion, it's generally, the main word that comes into play is religio. I can't remember exactly what
Religio,
it is.
Religio, I link.
Yes, or to bind, or something like that. But he talks, he talks about religion, at least the original definition, as being something that binds you to an idea. And I think religion should free you.
That's trippy.
It is trippy. It's like we're going to an infinite reality of different...
the meta-web.
Meta-web. Yeah, but back to our beautiful faces, Hugo. Yeah, what was I saying about religion? Obviously, Rastafarianism is not a religion. It's a way of life. It's I guess you could easily say that they're the same thing, but at least from my understanding, there is a huge difference between religion. Religions are more about dogmas, at least the way I look at it. And if you look at something like Buddhism, which is a way of life, it's more what you call a transcendental approach to life. You can be a Buddhist and still link yourself towards Christian ideologies or link yourself towards Hindu ideologies. It's more about, rather than focusing on the things that separate you, focusing on what unites you.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at the difference between religion and the way of life. But anyway, how do we digress into this whole Rastafarianism thing?
Well, it was hair, and so I just got, I put in the dreads because I dreamt of having them since I was a young nipper. Oh. It's quite strange.
So tell us about your young nipper upbringing. How did Hugo become so awesome?
Yeah, I don't know.
You're obviously from the UK.
It was a fluke. Yeah.
You're obviously very well educated, because that's one of the things I first noticed about you. You're very well spoken.
Yeah.
Do the English people just do it better? What's the deal there?
No. Well, English people do it better and much, much worse.
How so?
We have amazing breadth of culture in England, and I mean, by breadth, I guess I mean depth of culture, in the sense that there's this really rigid class system in the UK, which a lot of people from outside don't really know about. They don't really know
I had no
that
idea.
that's a part of the culture, but it is even still. And all of this I'm saying is to preface, you know, that I left, and I'm really happy to have got out. But basically, there's this kind of rigid stratification to society, where, you know, Australia might have 3 or 4 levels of society, and they're quite mobile, and they're kind of almost voluntary in a sense. So neither of the two main, let's say, cultures.
Yeah, mate. We got the yobbos. Yeah, mate. And then we got the I can't do an intellectual aristocratic Australian.
But those are the two. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like, those pretty much are the two
Absolutely
primary sort of cultures.
And then pretty much down to earth anyway. We don't have too much division.
They're kind of divided, but they're divided in a really interesting way, because neither side wants what the other one has. Like, there's no kind of jealousy between them. There's no like.
You don't think the yobbos want to live in rich surroundings?
They do.
Okay.
They do.
All right.
That's the thing. Like, they really do. Like, they have, you know, they.
But you said that
the
neither
level
of them wants what the other one wants.
Yeah,
no?
no, the level of wealth for both groups is astronomical. Like, it's crazy how wealthy people in Australia are. Like,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. So you get this, you get what might be what's called a working class in another country. That's what it's called in the UK. You know, the conditions are a lot different. They're, you know, they live in sometimes quite stressful scenarios of poverty.
Absolutely.
And you know, difficulties, tribulations. Whereas in Australia, you know, there is that. It goes on. It happens, I'm sure. But you know, definitely since the mining boom, for example, the amount of wealth that's poured into the working class, the tradie type of professions is extraordinary.
That's true. But you still, unless of course I'm not up to date with the Australian society, but you still have the Aboriginals, I'm sure, which are not living in the most what we'd call nice surroundings there.
No, you're dead right, and you know, that's a whole separate issue. So everything that I just said is made up for the fact that, you know, in Australia there is a class which is ignored. You know, it's kind of a lot of Australians just kind of embarrassed about it.
I tend to agree. I don't think there is this massive separation. At least we don't really go about. It's not like it's the Australian rich people and then the Australian poor people. We just call ourselves true blue Aussies. You know what I mean? Whereas you go to a place like India, and the caste system is so prevalent there. It's people aren't aware, but it is actually one of the most racist places in the world. Unless, of course, it's changed over the last 5 years. But as you know, they have these different classes. I think they're broken up into the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the Brahmin. And basically, it deals with, I think the Kshatriya is like the warrior class. At least that's what I remember from my Hindu texts. The Brahmin, they're the most elite. They're the ones that are well educated. They have a lot of money. I think the Vaishya, I could be wrong. I suppose I could Google this, but I'm pretty sure they. I think they're in between, or they're more the academics or something like that.
So what's the connection between Brahma and Brahmin?
That's actually a good question. The Brahmin, as you know, Brahma in Hindu mythology is basically that's another name for the supreme being.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of people look at the universe as I think there's a word for it. I've heard it, Brahma used to reference the universe. He basically embodies all of everything that is. So I guess the Brahmin class is obviously, if you have a look at the word root, it's derived from Brahma. So that's the highest level. I think we can look at it like that. I could be wrong with this, but I know that they're generally 3 classes: Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Brahma.
We're going to do another Wikipedia?
I suppose just for consistency's sake, we'll try not to do this too much because we want to entertain people. I mean, some people are about the education. I'm about talking about random silliness and just keeping people entertained. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But let's educate brothers.
Define Brahma. Define Brahmin.
Define Brahmin class. Let's have a look at what this is. Hopefully something will appear on this. Let me just try this again. Google. See what you got here for me.
No, I see. This is the Abbott internet already.
Yeah, this is
Slowed
my
down.
internet is not the best at the moment. Let's see if we can.
All right.
You know what? I'll forget it. I might just Google this on my
You
phone.
can let it load up.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Okay, define Brahmin. Brahmin. Yeah. There you got Brahman, then we Brahman. Yeah, that would be the one. So Atman. No, we just want Brahman. Atman's the inner self, I believe. We're already dropping some knowledge about the Indian.
Oh, look at
definitions of
those. There
things.
you got it.
Here we
The
go.
top thing.
A member of the highest Hindu caste. That's what I was saying. Originally, that of the priesthood. Okay, so they're the priesthood originally. The ultimate reality. That's another name for Brahmin.
Great stuff.
So it has more than one meaning. And then we got.
Well, amazing that those two. I guess it's the priest. The priest controls the ultimate reality for the populace.
That's right. I got it now. So we got the Brahmin.
Whoa!
Whoa. And
We're
then we
tripping out
got the Kshatriya. They're the warrior class. Then we got the Vaisya, which I guess are the lowest, the poorest.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, listen, anything I say on this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, don't take my word for it. Go do your own research, because I tend to be lacking a lot of knowledge, and sometimes I'm always spewing out half-truths, but that's the basic idea of the Indian caste system. We're just talking about how in a lot of countries there is a lot of racism. I know even in
Racism. Yeah.
I know even in the UK, you were telling me that they have a bit of a class system going there.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely. It's one of the prevalent conditions which precludes social mobility.
All right.
And so it's not really divided along racial lines.
Well, obviously, it produced very studious people like yourself.
Yeah, I wasn't that studious. I was I was at a really good school though, so it kind of came in by osmosis. So I was at a boarding school for a really long time, which was not like that much fun. But I learned a lot. Got like a pretty good classical education. Learned languages, which was really good, and was forced to learn. Where I think like if you go to a regular school, maybe it's more out of control and the teachers have less control, so you can get away with learning less. So even as a slacker at my school, I learned quite a lot.
Yeah.
But I was a slacker.
Well, more importantly, I think you had a passion for knowledge, because one of the things I learned about you and I loved about you was that, I mean, you're always dropping this knowledge about the classics, reciting these tales of Orpheus and reciting Aristotle. I remember one of the things you told me about Aristotle that blew my mind, about how we ended up in the scientific mindset we have now, about how Aristotle was all about categorizing things into different groups. And back in the ancient system, we had this universal, holistic system of looking at things. We didn't separate them into mathematics and then into what other ism. It was all part of this whole collective.
Right.
And you just seem to have this extensive knowledge of history, and I think the only way to get that kind of knowledge is, unless of course you're forced to do it on a very high education level, but the other option is to have a passion for it. And you've always, it seemed to me, had a passion for knowledge, at least the classic knowledge.
I guess so. But it didn't really come to the fore until I was long out of school, like way out of school. And then it's funny because I did start to do my own reading after that, and I guess the education that had been sort of thrust upon me became really useful at that point. But yeah, within the context of school, it didn't really make any sense. But that whole meme about Aristotle, that whole run is from a really good book that a lot of people have read, the Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Okay.
I don't know if you've come across
Sounds familiar. Zen, yes, I have heard of it. I haven't read it, but
very, very popular in the
check it out now.
1970s, I think.
If Hugo recommends a book, ladies and gentlemen, you better read that book, yo.
Well, that's the funny thing, is I'm not actually that big of a reader. Like, I'll do a lot of reading online and Wikipedia, and I'll watch.
You hear that, everyone? One of the most intellectual guys I've had the pleasure of meeting, and I do know some very intellectual people, is saying he's not a big fan of it, mainly because there are other ways of assimilating information. Right? I'm guessing you're a big fan of videos and audio
huge
books.
Fan of those kind of things. So audio visual is definitely my learning style.
Show on the crow.
And so I actually I I can read.
As you just displayed, checking out that stuff in Brahmin.
I am literate.
Yeah.
But for example, I've always found comic books, as an example, way more appealing and a way more effective way for me to absorb knowledge.
Picture tells 1,000 words, right?
I agree, and it's actually been proven that a comic book is the combination of text and words is the most effective way to transmit information.
I would agree with that. I would say that essentially there is probably no faster way of assimilating information than to actually read, especially if you were a speed reader. The amount of I've seen people that can scan whole pages. They use this technique called thought stream. It's not sub-vocalization where you're reading all the words in your head. You're basically just taking the words as if they're images, and as a result, you can assimilate faster than most people would. And without a doubt, it's faster to assimilate information if you're a thought stream reader. But we generally remember things, I would say most of us, when we either see it or hear it. At least this is what I've read, that it is much better to hear something, at least for most people, than to read it. And at the end of the day, I think it doesn't matter. It's just a piece of technology that you use. People don't think of reading as a form of technology, but if you go back 1,000 years ago, back in the time of Socrates, when reading came about, Socrates, you wouldn't believe, this intellectual, this one of the master philosophers, is talking about how, I don't believe in this reading thing. I believe that your brain will atrophy. You must remember things just as often as you can. That way you shall keep your brain functioning properly. And he wasn't a proponent of reading. He believed that you should try to remember everything. People back then, they had the ability, believe it or not, to memorize Bibles.
Wow.
Yeah, they were using these sophisticated techniques like the Caste technique, where you can make, think it's called some kind of memory technique. I've seen in The Mentalist. Big fan of it, where you're able to memorize things very, very well using the sophisticated ancient technique. And apparently the last century there were people that had memorized some kind of Babylonian Bible, which is much more in depth than the actual Bible, using these techniques. But the point is that back in Socrates,
I hope so.
Yeah, well, at least this is what I've heard on a podcast. I don't know, go check it out yourself. But apparently Socrates was not a fan of reading because it was this technology, didn't trust it. But now, a few thousand years later, it became prolific, and now we have other technologies like the podcast, audiobooks, Audible. Big fan of that, where you can read books on anything, any book that comes out in this day and age, you can find an Audible. And people tell me, look, you have to read books. How about using the technology that is most effective for learning? And that's my attitude. And one of the things I love is you can be multitasking. I tend to work out a lot, so I'll be doing the gyms. I'll be buffing up, running sprints as I'm learning about nature, reality, and
good stuff.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of how you come about your information, information is information.
That's right. I wouldn't. The book is an extraordinary technology. It's remarkably resilient. Of all technologies of storing information, I think it's been around the longest now.
That's true.
And there have been so many that have fallen by the wayside, but the book is still around, and it's to be admired in that regard.
Do you think it's going to be around for long, though?
Yes, I do. It's so durable, and it's there's no reason to suppose it won't. Like
physical books. I mean, if you watch Star Trek and that kind of model the future on Star Trek, I think eventually we're going to replace physical books with electronic books, which we're doing now. And eventually, I've seen new technologies where they're able to implant memories directly into brains. It sounds crazy. I'm not sure if I completely buy it, because I think of the consciousness as... I think of the physical mind as being something that you store information in your mind, obviously in the physical brain, but I think the true root of information is coming from some non-local source, and as a result, the idea of we don't fully understand where memories come from, at least on the scientific level. They've tried to narrow it down to neurons or something like that, but they don't really have the science worked out, and there's a lot of airy-fairiness as to what happens, where memories come from. I mean, I know that you have a bit of a spiritual outlook on things as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Whenever I hear about people coming up with these inventions where they've been able to locate the human consciousness in the brain, I always have to pause for thought, because I think we can't fully understand it on this.
Are people claiming that? Is someone claiming that?
Well, not necessarily, but it's just what leapt into my mind when I thought about us being able to store memories, because if we're gonna narrow our memories, or I guess our consciousness, into a physical thing.
Yeah.
It's a pretty scary notion, at least if you come from this theistic mindset that we're not necessarily this physical body. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I'm also in general I come down on the side of being pro technology.
So do I.
And also just to be aware that, you know, whenever it shall arrive, there will come a time in our lifetime when we're totally befuddled by the technology that our children or our grandchildren find very easy to use.
Absolutely.
So if you know, I don't know. I haven't heard of this thing where they implant knowledge directly into the brain.
Oh, they did it with rats. There was an article on this some time ago. They're able to somehow. I can't remember the details, but you can find it. Experiment memories, rats. You'll find on Google. Gotta love it.
Okay, that's he implanted a memory into a rat.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's right.
You see, I find that confusing.
So do I.
I don't know what the function of that would be. Would that be for transmitting knowledge? So it would be like you learnt it already?
I guess so, but you know what? I'm too vague on the article. I only just had a look at the headline.
Because if it is, it just brings up an interesting dichotomy between the knowledge that you gain versus the time it took to actually gain that knowledge. And more often than not, the attainment of a skill, as you well know as a practitioner of many arts, is...
Thanks for that. I like how... You hear that, everyone? He called me a practitioner of many arts. Coming from Hugo himself, I like that.
Well, the actual theoretical skill, or even the memory of learning the knowledge, I don't think is anything compared to the time of practice. The gradient, the degrees, the gradual learning of the skill in terms of actually incorporating knowledge. So I don't know how it would work. I'm curious, but
So am I. And it's an interesting outlook.
I think that time, you know, because we're kind of like, we are as both of us agree, kind of non-physical
and physical
manifested in a physical body. But one of the ways that we navigate, one of the main ways that we navigate, is through this illusory fourth dimension of time. So we control, or we perceive change, and we perceive life on the timeline. So we can perceive a lack of a skill, and then a gradual learning of a skill, and then the attainment of a skill, only because of the time in between those things. So the time gap is what makes learning and what makes change possible, or even possible to observe. So if you take that out of the equation,
absolutely,
you're gonna that's where I would be like a grandpa.
Yeah,
because I'll just be like the kid. I'll be like,
how the hell is that? Yeah,
kids, you know, back in my day, used to have the Spanish guys. They used to play the flamenco guitar, and the kid just be like, really, flamenco guitar?
Just download it.
And then they'll just be strumming away on the guitar, and I'll be like, that would confuse. Oh, son, that would confuse the hell out of me if I did that.
Yeah, on one level, I love the hell out of that, because I'm a big fan of The Matrix.
I love The Matrix too. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously to save a lot of time, if we could do that. But I think one of the greatest things in life is being able to become really great at something, and by doing so, being able to attract lots of girls with it and get some pussy. No, I'm not that shallow. But seriously, I think the process of becoming...
That's a really good hook, by the way, for males to learn skills, is that initially one of the reasons why they do something, why they're driven to be great, is exactly that reason that you
Absolutely.
said. But it's just a hook that hooks them in, because the reality is, you know, if you become great at something, you generally, that's what you end up wanting to spend most of your time doing.
That's true. I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of passion, discipline.
Yeah.
But I'm just more into the mindset that if you, I don't want to sound shallow about this, but if you want to gain respect amongst your peers, if you want to feel good about yourself, then devote yourself to something that you really want to become good at. Master that. And by becoming great at that, you will draw people to you, as opposed to having to go out and trying to push to find people that like you.
Sure.
I think one of my friends, Travis, I had him on the podcast. He's actually...
I know him. Yeah.
We
Well,
spoke
I've met
about
him
you
once.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at his show. His show is like this Sunday.
It's this Sunday.
No,
I believe it's the next Sunday.
next
I actually
Sunday,
mapped it on my my calendar. I'm gonna check it out, bro. Go check it out.
Dude, let's go.
Absolutely,
together.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Boji, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, go check it out. Gotta love how I can represent my friends and stuff like that on this podcast. It's one of the cool things about it. But I digress. Damn it, I lost my train of thought. Just becoming great at something.
Right.
And I think it's beautiful, the fact that you can draw people to you by becoming great at things. And I think if you took that away, people could just get anything they want. It would really change the dynamics of life.
That's true. That's a good point.
What's the point of I don't need to work on becoming good looking anymore. I'll just take some pill. I got it. Don't need to work on becoming great anymore. Then
that's a good point to some degree.
Yeah.
But if that did happen, it's just skill attainment or using time. It would go one of two ways. You'd get purists who would do it naturally and keep on the timeline and
be like, what are you doing, Grandpa? You're wasting your time learning this. Dad, just download it, Dad.
Right, precisely.
What are you doing still on the internet? You don't need to read up on ancient mythologies. Just I got the app for that right now. It's in my brain.
Well, but then the other way that it would go would be that people would create absolutely extraordinarily next level pieces of art or whatever it is from it. So who knows what they'd be able to do. So for example, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Like in exactly the same way that now we have the MP3 downloads and the sampling has just got to it, and it's such an insane level of sharing and accessibility. So initially, instead of composers, now we might have people who are sampling and sequencing music together. I can mention one of our peers, F. Joss Treats, my DJ musician friend who puts together the pieces of music in such a unique way. He's an extraordinary talent that in an art form that couldn't have existed 10, 12 years ago. And so he's basically sourcing music from all over the world and putting it together in a piece.
And it's that expression, it's the creative expression that is what we hold to be of greater value. I mean, information is very static. I mean, I think as we become more technologically advanced, the importance of static information, this left brain way of this left brain system, is less important because we're going to have computers that can do all that much, much better than what we can. But the idea of being able to take on information, express it, extrude that out in this something that is coming from a higher perspective. You know what I mean? I mean, what we're doing with the information is something that cannot be put in place in this left brain paradigm. Yeah. And I think that aspect is what is beautiful. And in the future, if we have all this information, it sure as hell is not going to detract from our creativity. Because at the end of the day, that's something that you can't really replicate.
Totally.
At least I don't think you can. But then again, Ray Kurzweil, I'm sure, would disagree. He'd be like, well, actually, in 2029, we're going to have computers that can think for themselves and express all creativity. Anything that can be manifested in this physical being can be represented on a computer. I'm like, I don't know about that. You've heard of Ray Kurzweil, right?
Yeah, does he say that about creativity as well?
Ray Kurzweil's view is that of the materialistic world. He believes that basically he believes that we will be able to download our consciousness into a freaking computer or something to that effect. Yeah. And I have a difficulty with that because as groundly as I am in science...
Grandpa Krish.
Yeah, I know. But here's the thing. I don't want to become that person. I'm going to be the kind of person 10, 20 years later that is getting the new Facebook. We'll probably have some kind of like holographic people book version of it. I want to be taking all the new stuff. I want to be getting the chip for the brain and planting it myself.
You do?
Well, here's the thing. I want to stay relevant with technology. As long as it is because all technology is a way of making your life easier. I mean, this is a piece of technology right now.
Absolutely.
If I can find something that is making my life easier and it's not having some detrimental impact on my life, sure, I'm going to take it. I want to be the kind of person that is very progressive, that is taking on all these new ideas. As soon as you become static and you stop wanting to grow, you stop allowing the inlet of information, you become one of these grandpa, no, I don't trust this interweb stuff. That's when you become old. I just think you may need to pause and think about the information that you're taking on, because sometimes it might be giving you something good, but it might be taking a lot away from you as well.
That's true to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I sometimes feel like it's sometimes a little bit tragic watching people who didn't grow up weren't born breathing the air of the technology, which means that it's just infused in them and they instinctively know how to use it. Trying to learn how to use it, I'm just like, just don't bother. It's torture watching you try to use this stuff. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be on the internet or whatever, but the particular example in my head is when you see the internet marketing sort of gurus trying to convince baby boomers to set up their online business, and they're like, you got to put videos on YouTube, and so you end up with these dudes like reading from a script, like really really clumsy. He's like, oh come on, if it was natural, you wouldn't need to you wouldn't need to struggle so much with this. It would just flow. If you look at the 17-year-old kid doing his vlog and getting 5 million views in a week, that's what it's supposed to look like. If it doesn't look like that, just you're probably not going to get it. A miracle might happen.
I think no matter how old you are, though, you can adopt those ideas. I mean, without a doubt, it becomes more difficult. But
don't you think there's a time when, I'm out on a limb here, but I imagine, I hope, and unless we do the upload thing, and live for 10,000 years in the computer brain.
Yeah.
I hope that there will come a time when like I'm just relaxed. I've done everything I wanted to do.
I don't think we'll ever reach a time like that. The whole idea of existence is to experience. I once heard this idea. I think it was proposed by Duncan Trussell. He's one of these amazing enlightened souls. He's
maybe I said the wrong thing. Sorry to cut off your flow, but I guess what I meant was that you would have learnt the crafts that you want to carry out your work, to create the works that you came to create.
Okay, so
and
you
that
can
no
focus.
more,
All right.
no more kind of skill acquisition, just practice of mastery.
I don't believe in perfection though, because what you're saying alludes to the idea that eventually you're going to master everything you need to allow to express yourself through creative art. I don't believe in perfection. I always believe in getting better at what you do. It is, yes, strive for perfection, strive for it, but you're constantly getting closer and closer to it, but you will never attain it. And
but in the art form that you chose, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not necessarily having to desperately flounder around trying to find a new one, age 65.
Yeah.
Like maybe it could happen that you naturally move into a new one. Maybe. But that would be in a natural course of event. That would be my time to just be coasting, just like found my thing, and I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
With all the time that I have left, like all of my synapses,
absolutely
are exactly honed to this thing, and I'm just gonna refine it and do it and be the master of it.
I see what you're saying.
And then that life is done, and I'll come back in another life and be on another tip. But at a certain,
I see what you're saying. So you can focus more of your energy on creative expression as opposed to honing your skills to
on one given.
Yeah.
Keep honing your skills in that area.
Yeah.
But not be constantly trying to look for the other missing thing, which or maybe I should be doing that, not this.
Yeah.
Not constantly trying different.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I like your perspective on that because I think it says
a lot. It's a bit of a throwaway observation.
Well, I think it says a lot about you
because
you strike me as a bit of a Renaissance man in the fact that you're dabbling in many things. Bro, don't be modest. This is all about being real. Look, without a doubt, you're doing very well with
I'm doing a few select things.
Well, you're obviously educated the ways of the world. You're a very learned man. I always think of you as one of those.
I think like a Renaissance man. And it's an expression that's kind of been coined.
Indeed.
But a Renaissance man would have been a lot broader than the terms we normally use.
That is true. That is true. I mean,
I wouldn't refer to myself as a Renaissance man. Like I've met a few people who I would consider that, but I wouldn't refer to myself as
I would call yourself the Artista in the sense that you are expressing yourself through these different arts. I mean, you're an artist in the very true sense of the word with your hip hop, your amazing ability to converse, and
Thanks,
bro.
man.
You have obviously you're a learned dude as well. I mean, I find it
To some degree, to some degree.
Mm.
Like I'm very much a beneficiary of this technology. Like that kind of instant access that we demonstrated earlier. That's miraculous when you think about it. Being able to, due to the abattoir that we're living in, of course, it was a bit slow.
Mhm.
But that kind of instant access to the knowledge of humanity,
absolutely
an
that is incredible.
extraordinary experience. Never fails to blow my mind. I'm very much a beneficiary of that. I was, it's like I was referring to before. I was born breathing the air of the exact level of laziness that is required. Like Socrates would tear his bloody beard out when he saw how lazy we are with knowledge. But that's where we're at. We can just tap on some keys like, what is the Rastafari movement? What exactly does it mean? And just within 10 seconds it's there and we can read about it. What an extraordinary miracle. And I very much am a beneficiary of that. So I don't I admitted before, I'm not a big reader. I don't read a lot of books.
Well, it's funny you say that because look, let's talk about one of the things that you're focusing on a lot at the moment, rap news. And one of the things I grab from that is you are this purveyor of tremendous knowledge. I mean, I feel as if the character that you play is this conduit for all the different perspectives on what's going on in the world. And I love the fact that you're not just portraying one story. You're portraying multiple stories from the stance of the General Baxter, this hardcore military utilitarianistic dude that wants to conquer the world. It's all about America, fuck yeah. Then you have the more hippie, enlightened Terrence Moonseed approach, and I feel as if you're the kind of person that's obviously extracting a lot of information. Maybe that's just you being a really good actor, hip-hop artist, but without a doubt, I think with all the humility you can muster, man, you have a lot of knowledge about the different things that are going on in the world, and I think that's expressed through what you do.
I do to some degree. But I think...
Do you keep yourself up to date with news?
Yeah, I keep an eye on it, but there's something very important that people need to know about rap news, and that's that it's a 50-50 collaboration.
Absolutely.
So, I can admit really, really honestly that I'm not a massive reader and never have been.
Mm-hmm.
But I do keep up to date to some degree with events. But the reason why rap news is intellectually so on the money is because of my collaborator.
Wow.
Giordano Nanni. Like, the guy's a genius.
I'm sure he is, and I love the fact that you speak so highly of these people that you work with. I would love to meet this guy.
Man, you got to. In fact, you should try and
I'll
convince him to come on the podcast.
I will. I'll get in touch with him. Giordano, right?
Giordano.
Giordano. I love Italian. Giordano.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Does he have an Italian accent? It's all good. He's got an Italian name. That's big enough for me, man.
Yeah.
Giordano, I would love to meet you, and if you're ever down, bro, I'd love to have you coming on here.
Come down, bro.
Sorry, am I speaking too loud?
No. That wasn't calm down. That was come down, Giordano.
Absolutely, come down, Giordano, my brother. But Hugo, let's play on this rap news thing because I know it is a collaborative,
100%
collaborative thing. But without a doubt, the raps that you drop, I've seen you rap.
I can talk about the rap.
Yeah, I had the pleasure. I had the pleasure of seeing you drop this incredible knowledge, man, in rhyme, firsthand at my. I think this was my EP launch some years back, and I love the fact that you play this whole thing down. I was thinking, I wanted to talk you up, but you basically had a very humble approach to the whole thing, and you're like, don't talk me up, just tell them I'm a rapper, blah 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 blah. And after seeing you command the audience like that, and then freestyle rap in all these different languages, I was without a doubt, and I seldom use this word, but I only use this around really pretty girls when they're singing to me. But I was pretty mesmerized, man. I'd never. I mean, look, I'm a black person. Obviously, I listen to hip hop. Actually, not that much, but I'd never seen hip hop done on this conscious level. I mean, this was maybe 5-6 years ago. We've known each other for a few years now, and I'd never seen conscious hip hop on that level. And it was cool because you were talking, rather than talking about popping caps in people's asses and gang violence, which is something I can't relate to. I just pretend I can relate to. I'm always talking about, yo, man, I live on the streets, yo. I got hard, yo. I'm saying, yo, I got holes, man, all over my face, yo. That kind of shit. But I can't relate to that stuff, and because I like to think of myself as a bit of an intellectual. I like to keep informed. When I was hearing you rap about all of this amazing, uplifting stuff, dealing with the conscious movement, dealing with all of this stuff that I'm into, it was very, very, very powerful.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
But-
So obviously you disseminate that stuff on rap news. I mean, I know what your style is, man. I know that stuff is inherently.
No, there's a hybrid. There are elements of me that come through in rap news as well. But again, that's not unlike Giordano. He's a deep dude. He's in the,
Okay.
He's not. I don't know if you describe it as spiritual. He's very much on the. He's a man of reason, but he's also an enormous respecter of indigenous cultures, and therefore, there's a massive amount of indigenous culture all over the globe is related to spirituality. So he's not in any way closed to those things. So there is having that broader a conception of history as he does, you're bound to get there is a spiritual element that comes into it just from knowing that our little portion of history is so limited, and it's such a short period of time, and yet we've affected the world so massively, and knowing the depth and incredible lengths of time that indigenous people were kind of custodians of the lands that they walked upon, and how they used spirituality and natural population control and connection with nature, all bundled together in. They wouldn't even have known those concepts were separate.
Yeah, so he's drawing on this vast knowledge of history,
he's drawing on it, and so he's very much a spiritual man.
Absolutely,
So,
no doubt. Can you walk us through the process of how you guys craft these videos? Because without a doubt, it takes a lot of. I know you don't want to go too deeply into this, and it does.
The only reason I can't is because we have an arrangement where we always do our media with rap news together.
That's fair enough. I totally get that.
We'll have to try and arrange it. We'll come down for a chat, the pair of us.
I would freaking love that, man.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
We'll try and hook it up.
Yeah, I just know. I feel very privileged, because with all the humility I can muster, I know that you haven't. At least I'm aware, because I'm always constantly checking out your stuff, and you haven't done too many of these formal interviews or anything like that throughout the interwebs. So I know there are a lot of people that have a lot of questions, and they're very eager to find out what makes this thing work. Yeah. And I know for a fact right now there are a few people out there that would be dying to get an insight into what Mr. Foster is all about.
Yeah, well, that's it. So Mr. Foster is a perfect example of why it's a hybrid. So he's a perfect blend of Giordano and me.
Absolutely.
So I kind of bring some of the mannerisms and the rap style and the voice and stuff like that, and
absolutely
some of the turns of phrases.
Yeah.
And the rhyming and things like that, but the knowledge, the philosophy, the very, very careful positioning of the character politically and socially, philosophically, that's Giordano's territory. It's deep stuff.
Yeah,
very deep stuff.
I feel as if not talking about your involvement in it, but just the whole Juice Media rap news thing.
Yeah.
In itself is such a beautiful representation of the conscious movement in entertainment expressed as art, because within Melbourne, within Australia, I would say that it's probably one of the biggest representations of what's going on in this conscious movement at the moment. I mean, the fact that you're putting across all these different views about technology, about spirituality, about politics, government, and you're dealing with some of the most important global issues. And I know that you've featured people like Noam Chomsky, Julian Assange on that thing, and it's like the whole conscious movement within Australia has been represented within this Juice Media Rap News. I would say that you guys are one of the biggest representations of this world truth movement in our country. And I love the fact that it's been done in this beautiful art form where it's obviously entertaining. I mean, people don't have a problem giving up a few minutes of their day to check this thing out because it's so entertaining and so cool. And it's expressing these things that so many people, these views that so many people connect with. I mean, that's one of the things I love about. I'm sure you're familiar with Russell Brand. He's the guy the amazing comedian, and he's been touching the heartstrings of so many people right now because
he's an alright comedian.
He's an alright comedian.
He's not bad.
He's not bad. You know, the biggest stand-up is stand-up.
No, his stand-up is not good.
But he's so charismatic that he doesn't have to be that funny.
He's extraordinary. He's an extraordinary figure and an extraordinary host of a show, or as everybody's seen, an extraordinary interviewee as well.
Absolutely. But I draw a lot of parallels between what he does and what Juice Media is doing,
Okay,
just
that's nice.
in the sense that he is able to express himself in such an intelligent way, in such a diplomatic way. Like, I'm not sure if you saw the last video that went absolutely viral.
Yeah.
He was with, I think, Jeremy, I can't remember his name.
Jeremy Paxman.
Jeremy Paxman, very up to date with the
Famous media figure from the UK.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
He really pissed me off because I thought what really won me over with that whole thing was I thought to myself I'd be getting so pissed off, but Russell handled that so well. He charmed the frack out of that guy, and he made his point so saliently. I love using that word. I actually got that from Hugo. That everyone was watching that had no choice but to freaking love Russell and agree with everything that he was saying. And he turned a very potentially disastrous situation into a beautiful scenario where he not only won that guy over with his charm, but expressed the sentiments of millions of people, billions, well, potentially at least 1 billion people around the world. And I love the fact that so many people resonated with that. And out of all of the figures at the moment that are representing this whole conscious movement, he's one of the foremost, because whereas a lot of people have great information, like there's Alex Jones, there's there are all these different perspectives. I love the diplomacy of Russell. I'm a big fan of the idea that if you're going to tell people the truth, make sure you make them laugh, otherwise they'll kill you.
Right on.
And Russell is so charming, he's so funny that it's hard to have any kind of a anger towards him. And
yeah, he's worked on that. You know,
yeah,
a lot. He was quite a lot more antagonistic in the earlier days, and I don't know. It's a trend, I guess. I think we're moving into a new era where you know, these kinds of sentiments are not so difficult to express anymore, and they do resonate. And they didn't in the past.
Yeah,
they didn't, you know, 100 years ago, kind of thing. Or
absolutely.
They you know, we would have had sort of Voltaire or other sort of enlightened beings on the earth, but the broader resonance was not possible due to the media, the lack of instantaneity of the media, but and B, just probably not possible just because, without sounding too woo woo, the vibration wasn't.
I wanted to drop that.
Wasn't
man.
right.
And look, we're pretty cool with our hippie ways.
Sure,
I mean,
I can go woo woo.
Let's go woo. Let's talk about the hippie movement, because look, we're
woo woo Tang Clan.
A year ago, we were just been on the precipice of 2012.
Yeah,
Armageddon, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And look, regardless of what take you want to take on that, I think a lot of people looked at 2012 as a conscious shift. Because I know you're somewhat familiar.
Actually, it's not regardless. That's the thing. It's not regardless of what people want to take on that, because that is exactly what it depends on. It depends on what people want it to mean. So you know, even though and especially now that it's past, now where they say that history is written by the victors, so we won.
Yeah.
We survived. So we survived for now. We haven't destroyed the earth yet.
That's true. We can make this movement what we want it to be.
Precisely, we can
and
make
it was
it
obviously
what we want.
conscious shit.
Yeah. So we didn't. You know, the Hollywood version 2012 didn't happen. Great. That's great. So we won that one. We beat Hollywood. No matter how much magical manifestation they tried to do, it didn't happen. No comets, except for that Russian one. But that was pretty minor.
Around the time in the lead up to it, 2011, we saw Fukushima. I was thinking, whoa, this is just on the edge of it.
That's a good point, because that's not over.
Yeah, that's actually another issue. As you know, the radiation is spreading throughout the. I think it's. I don't understand too much about the geography, but obviously Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
And it's a big scenario. And I'm reluctant to bring this up on Facebook, because the times I have, people just look at me as being the messenger of bad news, and they're always saying, why are you being so negative? Because this is a serious issue. It's like the Japanese government were undermining the significance of this thing, and because of reporters, we now found out that this is a hell of a lot more serious than what they believed it to be. And it's still going on. I mean, that the radiation is spreading, and I mean, I've heard from many sources that it's potentially going to be a global issue. I mean, we know that there have been seagulls apparently that have been found. This is in California or New York. This is in the East Coast, and they found the radioactive levels in their droppings are much, much, much higher than normal levels. So this is obviously affecting the sea creatures. Bottom line is there's a lot of evidence showing that this is contaminating foods, and the fact that it's being played down is a worry, because pretty soon it may reach the point where this is going to be affecting a lot of people, and it's going to create a lot of panic, and because people haven't planned to get out of these areas, and they've just it's all just coming in one little shock. Oh shit, we're actually suffering, we're actually dying, we all got to get out of here. There's going to be massive panic. Everyone's going to be trying to get out of the country, and because they haven't done all this planning, the problem could be a lot bigger than what it could have been.
Yeah, again, we don't really have a precedent for that. A lot of our hypotheses around those kinds of scenarios come from Hollywood again, which is the
Fukushima incident.
Mass panic.
Okay.
And sort of chaos and every man for himself kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sort of zombie apocalypse, which is amazing that there's how prevalent the zombie meme has become now.
Well, we've seen that in the Katrina incident, the hurricane, and basically a lot of people were panicking there. We're seeing a lot of stores raided. I mean, that does seem to be the general.
Yeah, but stores raided. That's not really that big a deal, is it? I mean, Not to put too fine a point on it, but if a populace is in the midst of a disaster, and and they have no food, and there's a store locked up, I would say that they're morally justified in breaking into the shop and getting some food.
I would agree.
But this is beside the point. We'd have to look at that on a case by case basis.
Okay.
What the main thing that I would say about Fukushima is that
Fukushima. I like how you say that.
I think that's
Fukushima.
I think that's how it's pronounced. Is that it represents like a devastating, like unprecedented disaster, potentially the worst ever. But my hope is that it doesn't, and you could have said that it's about the oil disaster in the Gulf of Mexico, but that we have to try to see a development in consciousness in any case, and the fact that these incidents are the way that they're viewed is maybe the only thing that fills me with hope, in that anybody who hears about them now agrees that they're not a good thing and that they need to cease. So this is a good bellwether. That's maybe the only positive thing that comes out of it. Are we
talking about the power plants in Fukushima that needs to cease? What exactly are we talking about?
I think broader issues around energy.
That's the thing, Hugo. I'm not sure if a lot of people feel that way. I know that.
I think that it's in my opinion, and again, this is slightly based on confirmation bias, and also just on sheer bloody-minded
optimist,
hope, and being an optimist. Exactly, absolutely. Is that I choose to believe that anybody now hearing about it, if they're told about it, would agree that it's a bad thing.
Of course, the people dying from people suffering from radiation, absolutely, that's a bad thing. But the nuclear power plants, whether or not that's a good idea, the fact that we still have nuclear power plants, most of the United States is run on nuclear power plants. We still have a tremendous amount of nuclear power plants all around the world. That, to me, would suggest that we are still very unsupportive. And don't get me wrong, there are many countries that I know. For Germany, for instance, they've started building all of these solar power plants, and in the next 15, 20 years, they plan on having all of their power plants completely replaced by solar power. And there is this huge shift going on. I truly do believe that eventually we are going to get rid of these fossil fuels and move towards this higher mindset. But without a doubt, at least right now, I think we would be sticking our heads in the ground like emus, man, if we were to suggest that the powers that be, not wanting to sound conspiratorial, are very much against wanting to use nuclear power and all that kind of stuff, because they're still doing it. Actions speak louder than words.
But we got to take a little bit of a long game and just think about next couple of years. It might not change, but you stretch it out to a decade, 2 decades. It starts to look more realistic that massive change can happen, and massive positive change. And you bring up Germany. Germany is a great example. So they're really their pie chart of solar proportions in their energy grid is just extraordinary.
Absolutely.
And best part of it is most of the solar panels are on people's houses. They're privately owned.
Absolutely.
Which is a great symbol for the collective urge to take control of these things. The collective urge to return to the simple power of the sun.
Absolutely.
It really doesn't take much. And thank goodness there's a country like Germany just showing the way. And it's really a no-brainer. So we have these incredible tools now, and don't forget that a Fukushima, something way worse than Fukushima can happen at any moment and just wipe us off the face of the earth.
That's true.
Not because of anything we did, just because it's a natural event. So
You've got asteroids and a whole bunch of crazy
anything could happen. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in 30 seconds. So it can happen.
Absolutely.
But it hasn't happened yet, and we've made a massive cock up with Fukushima. Massive fuck up. But we're a learning species, and I really do fundamentally believe that this let's get woo woo again.
Yeah.
The vibration is shifting.
Absolutely.
And so it starts with observing that nobody's out there saying, haha, great, haha, fuck you, Pacific Ocean, haha. No one's saying that. Like, some trolls might be just for a joke.
That's true.
But nobody believes that. And I would say that compared to the heights of the Industrial Revolution, that's a massive shift in consciousness.
Absolutely. We have a look at history, man. I've recently gotten, like I'm sure you were a big fan of, very much into history, and you have a look at some of the things that took place, in the times of Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, and without a doubt, over the last 100 years, we are seeing we've had the fewest deaths, fewest murders in any time ever in history. We are seeing such prosperity. Having said that, there is still a tremendous amount of nefarious shit that goes on. I mean, you're familiar with the Edward Snowden incident. The fact that I love the fact that right now we're knowing as fact, not conspiracy theory ideas, that the U.S. government, the small 1% of whatever you want to call them, they are still doing these really dodgy things, like surveying all of our text messages and basically all communications, and they're hell-bent on going to other countries.
What did you say, the 1%?
Well, what I was trying to illustrate is that government, the people, without a doubt, the overwhelming majority of us are still up for wanting to heal the world and all this kind of stuff. I would concur with that, but it is very clear that we're still seeing this manipulation take place on so many levels, from a small spectrum, if you want to call them the elites. I'm not sure if you subscribe into the Alex Jones mentality, where there are these... I
think Alex Jones's mentality is changing.
It is.
Massively.
But
he's another great bellwether for how consciousness is changing.
How do you think it's changed?
Oh, it's extraordinary. You look at... I don't watch him avidly.
Yeah.
But compared to the documentaries that he was producing when I first encountered him, compared to him now, it's a sea change.
That is very, very true.
We're seeing
becoming more spiritual.
We're seeing a very struggling enlightenment before our very eyes. This man is like, he's being confronted daily
with a tremendous amount of information,
with a tremendous amount of truth, and he's actually having to try really, really hard to hold on to the negative perception, because quite frankly, these divisions between tiny percentiles of the human populace,
that mentality.
This is not going to work anymore. This is just not going to work, and it doesn't work. Like, people aren't even really able to get that angry about it anymore. Like, the divisions are dissipating, and people kind of listening and spying in on the communications. Well, it's kind of a luxury of being in a country where we're not trying to rebel against our government, I suppose. But the more data that is gathered from people, and I'm not saying I approve of it, but one of the really interesting side effects of this is that governments and so-called elites get a really good picture of actually the raising of consciousness on the planet, and they're actually tapping into it. They can't not be affected by it. They can't. People in these positions cannot shield themselves from the raising of the vibration.
That is a very
and so by tapping into people's
optimistic
communications
outlook,
in this regard, they're actually exposing themselves right to the core of their organizations, right to the very echelons of their organization. They're exposing themselves to the very phenomenon. Well, they're unaware of the phenomenon. They're worried about terrorism and things like this. I honestly don't think they're too concerned about people becoming enlightened. I feel like personally that these governments and things just really represent the level of control that a given populace is willing to submit to or demands from its perception of authority structures and things like that. And as the populace raises its vibration, it's quite simple. The government ceases to be able to exert totalitarian control over them.
Well, let's certainly hope so.
Well, we're at a stage now where these kind of Western countries, there's a danger that it could kind of slip back in a way. But really, it's so advanced in terms of sort of civil rights and things like this and popular freedoms that really it's now a case of just tweaking.
You don't think some of these freedoms, though, and you have a look at the United States. I feel as if it's going through. They've eroded some of these personal freedoms, and it is almost as if they're declining into this. You have a look at most empires, like ancient Rome, and you have a look at the symptoms of when they were about to be destroyed. And I feel as if, at least according to Alex Jones and a lot of and just based on my own observations, that we're seeing symptoms in the United States at the moment. And I'm not sure if I buy into the idea that everything is as right as rain as we'd like it to be. I mean, obviously the United States is in this massive financial collapse, but they're still trying to war in all these different countries.
Yeah.
Where do you see the world being in the next 10, 20 years, and specifically the United States?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the Roman Empire. Like that, that was really, that became, that was where we coined the word decadent, because decadent means to fall.
Okay.
And so they were an empire which treated their surrounds as a source of slaves, and just conquered lands in order to draw in slaves.
Absolutely.
And by conquering lands, they spread themselves way too thin, and their supply lines,
as the story goes,
became totally exposed.
Exactly what the United States is doing, right? They have 300 bases around the world.
Well, yes and no. Militarily, it is, but there's no kind of barbarians at the gate in this case. I don't think there's only countries who want to elevate themselves economically. There's no one trying to bash down the walls of the United States to get in and take the land.
But isn't that what their whole war on terror is about? They feel as if someone's bashing at their door and they're trying to protect themselves.
That's very funny you should say that, because it's if they do feel like that, it's a very figurative sense, because it's not a literal invasion that they're afraid of. They're afraid of. It's difficult to separate real fear from fake, cynical.
Yeah.
Fear that's being used on the populace. But let's take the real fear. It's definitely not a fear of an invasion. I mean, it's extraordinary when you think...
True. Look, this is the 21st century. I think what they're mainly in fear of is the use of nuclear weapons. The use of... One of the most compelling arguments I ever heard for Obama doing a lot of the things that he's done that a lot of people don't even know are completely screaming out off the top of their lungs, how the freaking hell can this guy do this? For instance, the NDAA, which I'm sure you're aware of, National Defense Authorization Act, they can detain people indefinitely, going to war with all these different countries, all that kind of stuff, right? If I gave you a scenario where if someone like Obama was given all this information that other forces had were just on the edge of creating nuclear weapons, and within a few weeks we could seriously see this stuff being detonated within our country, then I would be inclined to think that, okay, now I can understand why you're taking all these drastic measures. And a lot of people make the argument that the United States could possibly be under threat from massive attacks. Nuclear weapons. This is no small joke. We now have the ability to completely decimate. We're talking about global Armageddon kind of stuff. People don't realize the bombs that we used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The ones that we have now are hundreds of times more powerful. When you're dealing with weapons like this, when we have a look at Fukushima, all right? We're talking eradication of the planet. And when people have access to these things, not chemical weapons, not just dropping planes and buildings, we're talking about serious stuff, then it makes you understand why the United States is acting so fearful. If Obama had access to all this information about the possible threats, and I think they're not just airy-fairy ideas, they're real tangible possibilities. And whereas I want to be as optimistic about the dangers that a country might be facing, I think some of the fears are definitely real, but it still doesn't justify them doing a lot of the things that I believe they're doing.
Yeah. The idea of I assume you're talking about a nuclear terrorist attack.
Absolutely.
That's unstoppable. I mean, what if someone were to do a kind of James Bond villain type of dirty bomb briefcase thing, they're going to be able to do it.
Well, then make the argument that, look, without a doubt, the Indian Pakistani not president but great official or something like that said that, look, if I think it was, don't quote me, but it was something to this effect, if India does this, we're going to drop a nuclear bomb on them. Now there are various countries that have openly said they're going to use these weapons. Without a doubt, it's a serious issue. I mean, the United States, for instance, there's a reason they don't want countries like Iran to make these weapons, because they're fearful of them using it. But the point I'm trying to make is that it is very possible for countries to use these weapons. I mean, I think that's just a reality of the world that we live in. They have been used. Russia was building them. Russia still has thousands of nuclear weapons. They could blow the world up many, many thousands of times over. And I think the threat is definitely real. And whereas I want to subscribe to the idea that definitely we're evolving in our consciousness. I mean, we have a look at what humans would do thousands of years ago, with Genghis Khan and, all the terrible battles that took place in our history. Not even that long ago. We only have to go back not even 100 years ago and see the terrible atrocities that took place in Hitler's time and all that kind of stuff. And we know that we haven't gone through physically. We're still the same beings. We're capable of some heinous things, and it just makes me think, shit. We have the potential to either evolve and become the most amazing, beautiful planet, or we could seriously find ourselves in a lot of trouble if we don't get out acting gear, because the world is, 2012 could still eventuate. I know that sounds very ominous, but the fact that...
You mean the movie?
No, the movie scenario. And let's be clear about this, because I know...
The movie one, it didn't have any cause. It was just
metaphorically,
a series of natural disasters.
That's true. I'm talking about Armageddon. I used 2012 as a metaphor in this.
Armageddon was... talking about the movie Armageddon?
No, I'm just talking about a metaphor to explain the idea that we could...
A global conflagration.
Absolutely. That we could end up...
nuclear holocaust.
I know. And I know I watch you, and I know that the whole ominous kind of approach to things is definitely not the place that you resonate with.
Well, I have sympathy for people that do. I mean, those are convincing stories, and they really are. But what personal gain do you have from thinking like that? Do we have from entertaining these possibilities? Like it won't do any good personally, and it can lead to a lot of negativity in terms of perceptions or even approvals of certain actions. So, for example, if we ever say, that in order to mitigate the risk of a rogue nuclear attack, we are willing to endorse the use of flying robots to kill people at weddings.
Absolutely. If we
ever find ourselves falling on that side of the fence, it's evidently there's been a mental
without a doubt,
cock-up.
it's nothing that justifies that kind of logic. But I do believe that I don't subscribe to this hippie mentality that let's only just focus on the good, that there is no evil in the world, and that is the general ethos of a lot of the people out there in this this New Age 2.0 movement thing. I do believe that there are definitely terrible things that are going on in the world. I think sometimes the only way to avoid being injured by something that is coming towards you is identify the problem and get out of the way. And unless, of course, you you live in this. Let's call it the reality principle.
But there's no escape in this case.
There is an escape. Escaping it is identifying what is really going on in the world. This is what I subscribe to: the fact that there are, let's say, a very small percentage of people in power that are basing their decisions on how they can elevate themselves or their people, as opposed to thinking in the greater good and all that kind of stuff. And they're doing terrible things. I mean, for lack of a more eloquent way of expressing myself, they're perpetuating heinous, violent acts on innocent people around the world. I mean, we've all seen what drones have been doing. I remember I saw a report recently about a kid and their mother or something like that. They're talking about how their one of their relatives was killed. They watched them being disintegrated by one of these drone attacks, and they were pleading to the U.S. government to stop this kind of stuff. And the more people always telling me about how I shouldn't be perpetuating these ideas because it's negative, but by becoming aware of the problem, that allows people to say, hey, this is a bad idea. We're going to stop this from going on. And that's basically how social revolutions have been perpetuated. That's how we've gotten the government to stop doing terrible things. It's always how it starts by becoming aware of what the problem is. I mean, I'm sure you understand English history more than I do, and I don't understand this very well at all. But I know that the people in the United States, they basically decided to protest for. I'm sure you can explain this much better than I can, but they weren't willing to suffer the rulership of the monarch or something like that. Therefore, they
didn't want to pay taxes.
They didn't want to pay taxes, that kind of shit. Therefore, they stopped protesting. And they go to war for it. And bottom line is, you have a new country with new rules, and it leads to this beautiful Declaration of Independence and all this other kind of stuff. And that's what happens from being aware of the injustices that are going on in the world.
I agree with that 100%. I think that, like, in terms of especially actions of our own governments, that's absolutely correct. Fear of actions of other people's governments is less constructive. And so maybe indignation or what can we say, like holding our own governments who we vote in, who represent us, to account. 100%, couldn't agree more. But the flip side, where we were talking a little bit earlier about the danger of rogue kind of attacks or terrorist attacks, these things for me don't get any energy. And
that's a good attitude, because there's so much negativity going on in the world that if you assimilate all of that stuff, all that information into yourself, you're going to be... I mean, I think about how I want to live my life, and whereas I love having these conversations, I don't want to become one of these activists that's constantly immersing myself in all these horrible... Like, you've seen collateral murder. There's far worse stuff than that on the internet. In fact, that is a common thing that most military people can access. They're constantly trading videos of kills and things like that. But there's a lot of terrible stuff that goes on in the world. And if you immerse yourself with too much of that, you're going to be living in this very low frequency. And I think one of the best ways to uplift other people is to be the change that you want to see, to be vibrating this higher frequency, to be the kind of person that's positive, like yourself. I mean, I say every interaction with you, Hugo, is always a positive one. You're,
thanks.
Yeah, but
you just reminded me of my great friend Tim Parrish, who runs the Transitions Film Festival. The slogan of the film festival is "See the change you want to be." See the change that you want to be. Yeah, which is phenomenal. I mean, it's phenomenal for a film festival, but it's also phenomenal on a magical level. Yeah. So if you can observe it, if you can focus on it first and see it existing in the world, it's much, much easier to then fake it till you make it, copy it, and actually follow that role. Absolutely. In your own life. That's powerful stuff, because he's a clever guy. You should get him on the podcast. Absolutely. Well, bro, be sure to send me his contact details, man. I love getting in contact with people like you, because you open me up to another world of other possibilities, It's like,
One of the most profound people I met several years ago was Damien. He's
Damien, what a
he's
legend.
Yes, and
Should get him on the podcast.
I would love to get him on the podcast. And he was probably one of the few people I met that was very outspoken about some of these very unpopular ideas. Because this is still in time of the internet.
He's an evolved being.
Very much so. But one of the things I admired about him is he would speak very openly with a lot of conviction about so many of these issues. And by spending time with him, I came in contact with people like yourself and other really cool souls, man. And it is I just love that one of the great things about these podcasts, because it's all about connecting and being able to connect other people to these different perspectives on reality and life and getting away from the mainstream. Because without a doubt, I think the general picture, this is I think what was represented in Russell's little rant over here, that the ethos of the majority is not being represented by these political systems.
Yep.
And I think a lot of these people that are out there, they want to connect with something that is more in line with the way that they view the world, and that's one of the things I love about podcasts. I feel as if people can connect to things outside of the mainstream nonsense that's going on out there.
I'm cool with Russell, and you know that. You
just don't think it's funny.
No, I that's beside the point. I don't think his stand-up is funny. I'll reserve judgment when I see the Messiah tour.
It's enlightening though.
but he's an excellent figure.
Mm.
But
looks a bit like Jesus, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, Jesus, Jim Morrison-ish kind of thing.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm less excited about his revolution is that I think that there are other revolutionaries who are just...
Drop some names, Hugo. This is all about connecting with other like minds. Drop some names.
Here's my favorite revolutionary of the moment.
Okay.
Entrepreneur, inventor, magician, Elon Musk.
I've never heard of him, and I don't want to brag, but I
know
a lot of cool dudes.
I bet
in this
you
movement.
have. You know,
Elon Musk.
Because I'm dropping a bit of a curveball. He would not be considered a revolutionary.
Okay.
He's a businessman.
What has he done?
He's done. Okay, let's list them on the fingers because I love this guy so much.
All right.
First or second business, PayPal.
Oh wow.
Right.
Okay.
So
he's a techie. He's a
second business.
I've started, dude.
I think was, I'm not sure the chronology, but second or third was Solar City, like a solar power energy grid kind of innovating startup.
That's freaking brilliant.
Third or fourth, I'm not getting the chronology right. I'm sure you've heard of these guys. Tesla.
Of course, man.
He created that company.
Well, the company. I thought you were actually talking about the Nikola Tesla. He started him up.
He
they couldn't have done that.
Tesla bot on Earth, which is,
there's a Tesla bot. We're not talking about the Tesla car.
The Tesla car, yeah.
Oh, he's responsible for the Tesla car.
Yeah.
Damn, this guy.
Racking them up.
Okay.
Am I in the thing with 3?
Yeah.
Fourth one, SpaceX. Space exploration.
Oh, to take normal citizens into space?
Into space, to Mars.
This guy's like a Richard... I always get Richard Branson, Russell...
He's
mixed up.
He's the he's the version of Richard Branson that is of this era, is of the post-2012 era.
Okay.
Like
Elon Musk.
Musk. Okay. Now,
ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Hugo himself. You got to check out this guy.
People out there will have heard of him already, but I would hold him up as a far more exciting revolutionary than any political figure out there, any comedian, any rapper, any artist. He's the ultimate expression of a magician in the modern age.
Yeah.
In fact, I would go as far to say that he is the potential of magic incarnate.
That's powerful.
In our world.
I think I see where you're going with this, because I'm guessing you look at, correct me if I'm wrong, but I look at magic as more so being able to envision, turn your vision of something and manifest it into this Euclidean meat space. So this is an inventor that can conceive of these amazing ideas in his mind, like Nikola Tesla, and somehow extrude them out into these ideas like PayPal, SpaceX, and whatnot. And by creating this reality through his mind, through his higher consciousness, that is truly magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
powerful stuff.
So you know, those 4 things for a start.
They're
Revolutionize the
big
economic
things.
system. I mean, you know, PayPal is flawed as hell. But do you remember before PayPal? Like now we've got Bitcoin and all kinds of
That's
exciting
true.
stuff.
That
We
is no
wouldn't have
small fry
Bitcoin
stuff.
without PayPal. PayPal started the ball rolling, and so we can put that down. Revolutionize the economic system on the planet.
Okay.
And actually, I'm a little ignorant about Solar City. I don't know what they do, but
It's a beautiful idea, man. The idea of creating some kind of
I don't think it's a city.
Well,
I don't think it is. But
anything to do with solar power
it's solar.
is cool in my books.
It's totally cool. So
Absolutely.
I'm not sure what it is. We'll have to look it up. But then, you know, electric vehicle, and those 2 things can go together, because if he reforms the grid in such a way that it's run off solar, and then these electric vehicles are coming around where his company has installed the refilling stations across the USA.
Oh shit, man! This guy's creating like Earth 2.0.
Exactly. And then finally, once you've just taken care of Earth 2.0, you just say, right, we're actually, as a species, we're in a fairly good position to respectfully go to another planet. And he's started that company as well. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that trumps
Yeah, I gotta be real about that.
any
That does.
Russell Brand.
Yeah, look, without a doubt, because we're in the world of, I remember one of my friends, Anki, is this amazing guy, is a student of Krishna consciousness movement. He talks about all these Sanskrit ideas, and apparently the age that we're in now is all about action. I can't remember exactly what age we're in, but he talks about people that are actually doing things, or the people that, I mean, unless of course you can be intellectually masturbating with all these ideas in your head, but
That's
unless
what
of
I'm
course
doing.
that's what I'm doing with this podcast. Like, let's talk about crazy concepts like a world.
That's it. I'm just rapping about it.
Absolutely. Well, look, without a doubt, I think inspiration is a very powerful thing. Let's not undermine what we do.
So.
All right. But let's try. I know you're man. You got a lot of things to do. Let's
No,
yeah.
I'm not. That's just me adjusting my
All
brush.
right.
I'm not
Okay.
in a rush.
That's cool. But I really wanted to make this point about how people that are doing things, actually going about really changing the world, as opposed to just intellectualizing. They're the people that we really should be holding up there, looking up to, as opposed to the Kardashians that are all about freaking banging hot guys and stuff like that.
So, you know, Russell Brand is undoubtedly better than a Kardashian.
Yes, without a doubt. And look,
he represents a great potential for the celebrity to change the conversation and do good.
And it's getting the ball started. I mean,
I like the guy. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's great.
Yeah. The people that are actually going out and doing stuff.
But he's eating the dust of an Elon Musk. Like
I agree.
They don't even compare. They're not even the same species.
Okay. Well, you mentioned Elon Musk, and we both agree that guy, without a doubt, is amazing. I just really heard of him now. But can you think of any other figures that are changing the scene?
Yeah, there must be heaps, but he's my favorite right now.
Okay. I never thought about, because you strike me as someone.
He's my obsession at the moment.
Yeah, I love the fact that you picked him as opposed to a spiritual guru or something like that. It means that
He's spiritual.
He's very spiritual.
No, he's not. He's not openly, but that is spiritual.
Yeah.
That is. I think that is one of the most spiritual things that a human could do.
Mm.
I think it's more significant than any of the progenitors of any of the major world religions have done.
Yeah, like Deepak Chopra, that kind of stuff.
No,
yeah.
Jesus, but better than Jesus.
Okay.
Better than Buddha. Better than.
Whoa. Just realize what you're saying here.
I'm serious.
Hugo, that's a big call. I mean, when the Beatles made that statement, they kind of potentially.
Elon Musk is bigger than Jesus.
All right.
Jesus Musk. No, okay. So
You're gonna have to go on your own with this one, bro.
we have our fan favorites. Like, we like Buddha.
Absolutely.
But Buddha. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to wait to see if Elon Musk's technologies are weaponized or something.
Because I see what you're doing. You're putting the emphasis on physical things, and the issue that I had, at least in my mind, was that when people look at the world of spirituality, they're thinking of things dealing with outside of material ideas. So they're thinking of things
there's nothing more spiritual than seeing the sacredness of the material.
Only Hugo could have said something as profound as that.
Like,
That's definitely made me pause for
I
thought.
consider myself a materialist, but not in the way that word is used.
Well, there's no separation, is there really?
The material, it's
It is.
unbelievable miracle that we get to, as you call it, what did you call it? The Euclidean
Meat space.
Amazing term.
Yeah.
That we get to play in this meat space. So funny, but this is the material, and what could be a better expression of magic than the potential of an art, for example, like engineering, which can create the terrifying technologies that you've referred to as of nuclear weapons, which are actively destructive, and even nuclear power, which is only potentially destructive, but also potentially amazing. We could have nuclear fusion.
That's crazy.
In the future, which is extraordinary potential. That is the only reason why the original storytellers who spoke about the metaphor of dark and light magic didn't use engineering was because engineering didn't exist at that time. Like engineering, technology, these arts of humanity, they are magic. They are the quintessence of magic.
Yeah.
We do not need a Harry Potter, we do not need like a telepathy, which may come, which may, humans might evolve to have it, but we've got it already.
That's a good point.
We engineered it.
T.S. Eliot, when technology becomes sufficiently advanced, becomes indistinguishable from magic.
Which is a profound statement.
Absolutely.
And I would go as far to say that it's a real shame that statement had to be made, because if we'd known from the outset, two things. If we'd known from the outset, so the thing that you reminded me before about the Aristotelian separation of well, it's actually not. His propensity to separate things led to, according to the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, led to a separation of the two bounds of techne. That techne is a Greek word meaning art.
Okay.
And so we took techne and we took the study of that. We added ology, which is the study. Technology is the study of art.
Okay.
And we then created our own word, art, artificial, artifice, and we separated the two. So art and technology are separated. So that was the first major schism. But I would propose a more profound schism than that, which is that technology was never acknowledged as magic. Maybe until now, maybe until this era, can we truly see that it's magic. It's a miracle. These are miracles that we witness. We carry the gadget in a pocket, which I've
absolutely. I got mine over here. This iPhone right here.
What? This is unbelievable.
Absolutely. And you see the progression of this. This is what I love about the times that we're living in, because like magic, we are seeing ourselves grow into these incredible beings that basically have godlike powers. And it sounds like crazy. I can't believe you use the word God, Krishna. But for crying out loud, we have mediated telepathy. I can send an idea right to you thousands of miles away. I can interface with you like freaking magic. I have now access to a pool of unlimited information. And pretty soon, here's the crazy thing. Bro, do you want to talk technology? Fucking talk technology to you. I'm so excited, man. I can't even express myself properly. But man, imagine this, all right? When I mention this to people, they think I'm speaking magic and I'm on some kind of trip, right? But when I talk about technology, I'm speaking factual, because I talk about a lot of hippie nonsense, okay? Now, the kind of technologies we have at the moment, have you heard of EEG headsets? They basically...
that's what you showed me last time, right?
No, that was the... I think it's some kind of Oculus Rift. It's another amazing thing that's come out. But EEG headsets are one of the coolest thing, because you can make this leap right. That is not crazy. It is completely, utterly logical. Now, first of all, EEG headsets allow you to manipulate physical matter with your thoughts. So basically now you can play computer games, right, where you put these EEG headsets on and you can make your character turn left, turn right. There's this game where you get to use these chi powers and you can bend a tree by thinking it. The Chinese have created a drone
You
that
can bend a tree. What?
well,
in
it's
the
like
game.
it's like playing a game, but you're using this EEG headset. So rather than using a controller,
it's reading your thoughts.
it's reading your thoughts.
You're
Basically,
controlling the game.
absolutely. You have to calibrate, spend some time doing that. But now you can use a drone. You can
Yeah.
fly this thing with your freaking EEG
Yeah.
headset. You can take pictures by blinking, all right? Now, that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but that is real stuff. You can actually type messages now. You can see this on YouTube. You can type messages using an EEG headset.
Yeah.
And look, in all honesty, they were doing this in 2000. I remember seeing this on Beyond 2000 where they had a device that could allow some guy to use his cursor, use his mouse cursor and move it left, right, up and down, right, using his mind. Extraordinary. But now, here's the next level. We now have technology, right, where some kind of nanotechnology, all right? We can actually manipulate matter on the subatomic level, okay? Now, imagine if you could fuse nanotechnology with the EEG headset.
Yeah.
You'd be doing shit like thinking about that cup right there, dematerializing, thinking about that cup right there. And look, that sounds like a bit of a step away, but I know for a fact we now have devices, right? They're called quadrators or something like that. They're these little devices, right, that you can... They're like... Oh, they're freaking amazing, man. I'll show you a clip another time.
You're talking about the little drones.
Those little drones. You can move...
The four
absolutely.
Propeller drones.
You can make them do some amazing things. Now, Matt, we can do this right now.
They're the positive part of drones.
Absolutely. But imagine this. You can link your EEG headsets with a whole bunch of mini ones, and you can do things like lifting your cup up in the air, making that thing pick up little objects. And so you can actually use your mind now to interface with physical reality.
Well,
so
what about this,
Jedi
Chris?
powers.
What about linking your EEG meter headset to the 3D printer, and just imagining something and then it pumping out?
Now we're cooking, son. Now we're freaking cooking.
But I guess if we're manipulating the nanoparticles, we don't need that anyway.
Exactly.
We don't
but
even need
that's
the 3D
still,
printer.
That's still a step.
But maybe
a
the
step
3D
further
printer
away.
is the step towards
absolutely
manipulating the nano.
But they are. Look, I know Europe is very advanced with nanotechnology. They're doing some crazy stuff at the moment. And look, I couldn't.
Well, it's really, really practical things are coming out. The life straw,
it's a life straw.
It's just a handheld water filter. It's
I've
incredibly
seen that.
effective.
Yeah.
Filters 99.999.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a nanotechnological device.
Yeah. But I'm talking about more...
But that's just an example of something really practical, really simple.
Yeah.
Very cheap to produce.
I'm talking about pills you can take
stuff.
now. Ray Kurzweil, apparently they're going to have this perfected within the next 5 years or so, that work with your blood cells or something like that, allow you to breathe underwater for up to hours.
Wow.
So they're now creating these pills. When it comes to particulars, the details,
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah. But basically, they're perfecting this thing.
Is this true?
This is
it was
legit.
A fake article.
When I'm talking about technology, you
Amazing.
think I don't have to talk about metaphysics anymore because technology is far more mind-boggling.
Great, exactly.
The kind of stuff that we have now is when I brought up the Google car 6 months ago, people were like, "No, that's ridiculous." Yes, we have a car now that drives itself. It's not crappy, dodgy shit that can't get from A to B. I'm talking about a car that is far more likely to get you from A to B than 99% of
you
humans.
yourself, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm talking about stuff. There is a New Zealander that has made a jetpack that flies 5,000 feet. That's right, I freaking said it. A few years ago, I was talking about 30 feet, and I felt reluctant saying that shit because it was unbelievable. It apparently is the most amazing feeling. It's about $75,000. You could travel for half an hour in this thing. The latest version, 5,000 freaking feet. It's a jetpack. It runs on normal petroleum. This is the kind of stuff we're implementing now, and this is just a touch of the kind of stuff we have. So really, we are living in this magical world. And you have a look at the exponential growth of technology. We're talking about how 40, 50 years ago, we had these computers that were like 100 times the size and could do only one fraction of the stuff that the iPhone can do. And 40 years later? But you have a look at the exponential growth. That's why people like Ray Kurzweil believe that by 2029, we're going to have the singularity. We're going to have a point in time where computers are going to be so sophisticated, you're not going to be able to distinguish the way an artificial intelligent life form behaves in comparison to how a human being behaves. And unless, of course, we've somehow fused our physiology with technology, like transhuman nutcases or beautiful beings, you're not going to be able to experience, you're not going to be able to see this technology. This is the definition Ray Kurzweil gives of the singularity. Unless, of course, you can merge your physiology with the technology, you won't be able to somehow perceive the rate at which it is growing or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's powerful stuff. And you're right. We are in a magical age, man.
We've been in it for a while. We just didn't know it. Like the what we've been living through, in my opinion, was that tail end of a dark age, in which the Industrial Revolution was an expression of dark magic.
Absolutely.
On the planet, an absolute expression of dark forces, out of control. But as everybody knows, after a night must come a dawn, and I believe we're approaching that dawn. In fact, I honestly believe we've already passed it.
Okay.
And that we're now, it's
On the
my
precipice of something
optimistic hope that we're going to take all of that dark experimentation and use it as a springboard.
Do you kind of feel, though, that there is this imbalance between our technological progression and our progression on this spiritual, psychological, I don't know what term you want to use to define that level? And that's what the issue is. I mean, if we have these, it's like giving a baby these destructive weapons, and are they capable to use? I mean, look what we've done with nuclear weapons already. Over the last 100 years, we've had 4 major detonations. Long Island,
Chris,
Fukushima, Chernobyl.
That's
3 Mile Island. I can't remember all of them.
Even though those are terrible disasters.
Yeah.
You got the flip side to that is, well, it's a bloody miracle that there weren't more. I mean, considering the quantity that this technology is being used and the quantity of weapons that exist, the fact that more disasters haven't happened, which sounds like a really kind of dull and kind of slightly stupid, tempting fate thing to say, but that's the side that I would choose to focus on.
I like the side you choose to focus on.
We could have, and we can still destroy the planet. We will be able to, with any number of new technologies in the future. At some point, we're going to be able to rip a hole in the space-time continuum.
Absolutely. You familiar with Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 civilization, that kind of shit?
It's going to happen. So these technologies which can destroy massively more than previous generations of technologies are a natural consequence of growth. Like when you're a kid, you barely get trusted to crawl, and by the time you're 20 or 17 or whatever their age is, you get entrusted with a metal killing machine on wheels. There's a time and a place when you are allowed to wield the technology in spite of its destructive power. So
absolutely,
the optimist in me says that yes, we accelerated our techno magical capabilities far beyond our spiritual capabilities for the last 400 years, but we did it. We succeeded. We got over the finish line, in my opinion. And there's a lot of people who just tear their hair out hearing me say that. But in my chosen opinion, we did it. We got over the finish line, and even though there is still plenty of darkness around and plenty of potential for global destruction or individual destruction or terrifying existences for large swathes of the population, nevertheless, we are now on the upward slope into the light.
Absolutely. That is a freaking beautiful rant, man. I can imagine a little clip with your beautiful music going in synchronicity to this beautiful oratory of that whole thing, and that being like a powerful video.
The way I look at it, a lot of spiritual people believe, along with the sort of Hindu philosophy, that we're existing in an illusory state. That it's the Maya.
Absolutely.
If it is true, then some people would say that would make people more flippant about it. But if it is true that this is a manifestation of our psyche, then we have way more responsibility for its status than if it wasn't a manifestation of our psyche. And
absolutely.
it's exactly the same way.
It's a manifestation of our collective psyche, and that's the trick. Because whereas you may be obviously you're representing the change that you want to see in the world, it's difficult because a lot of people feel as if there are a lot of people out there, or maybe not a lot, but at least enough that it's creating this reality that we individually are not completely in line with, and
I don't know.
I guess we have to change their
I
mindset in order to experience.
It's back to the Tim Parrish slogan, you know. I see the change I want to be in the world.
I see the change.
I don't see that other stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's
and you could call it confirmation bias. It is, but that is a magical methodology.
It is it's a difficult one, but
so you know, people need to take control of their Facebook feeds and you know, if they're and use it as a magical device for taking the bellwether of the planet, you know. And if there's a story which is really troubling them,
yes,
you got to look for the
positive in that.
Not the positive, but the balance. You got to look for the balance. I think like in exactly the same way that it's not all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in exactly the same way, nothing is all darkness and pain and suffering. There's a balance to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So for stage one is finding the balance. And then after that, stage two is being able to manipulate it and choose where you sit with it.
Definitely wise words, and definitely something I shall ponder on, son. Hugo, you have such a brilliant take on the world.
That was fun. How long did it go for?
Bro, I think we've hit the 2 hour mark. I usually keep these things to an hour, but we're going on almost to 2 hours. A lot of juicy information there, which I'm going to extract and create lots of really cool clips out of. Hugo, it is an absolute pleasure having you on this thing. I know that you're doing a lot of things. Obviously, you're a musician. You have your own music coming out.
It's purely rap. I don't know if I call myself a musician. Well, I'm a poet.
Absolutely, yes, but it's still. This is a tricky thing, because I know a lot of singers. I guess some rappers don't look at themselves as a musician, but essentially, your vocals, your voice is the biggest instrument of all. It's the most finely tuned instrument. You're expressing yourself through vibrations that are being emitted into this Euclidean meat space, and just like any other instrument would be doing so, you're doing that through your own voice. That you've seasoned to be what it is now, and that, by all means, in every sense of the term, is music. Yeah. So, right. Yes, I definitely consider yourself a musician, a wordsmith, and any other awesome thing I can think of throwing in there. And I would love for you to shout to represent your. Where do people get a hold of your stuff, son?
My personal stuff, probably the best place is my YouTube channel. Okay. So just go to, I guess,
Hugo the Poet, right?
Hugo the Poet.
Yeah, I've been to that many times.
Yeah, I've got about almost 50 videos up there now. It's if you look up the Hugo hip hop playlist, you can see my career of making videos. I love YouTube. I think it's an unbelievable media revolution at your fingertips.
Join the crew.
Absolutely extraordinary phenomenon.
And of course, there's the Enlightenment album that you have
the
out.
The Enlightenment Era, yeah.
Enlightenment Era.
Yeah, which is available, I'm pretty sure, for free download off my SoundCloud nowadays.
I've checked it all out on SoundCloud. I really thoroughly enjoy that CD. Yeah. I particularly love that one about the cat. What was it? Schrodinger's cat?
When I get
Is that right?
Yeah, when Pavlov's dog met Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah. It's very unique.
Die Flucht zum Gedankenexperimenten. It's my opera, my rap opera about thought experiments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Definitely see the similarities between the style there, and obviously a lot of the stuff that you do on the Juice Media.
Well, I contribute my part.
Absolutely.
I contribute my part. I guess I contribute definitely rhyming and acting and maybe some comedy as well. But we've always got to remember with rap news, it's a
combined, absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, Mr. Hugo. Actually, that's not even your surname, Mr. Farrant, Hugo Farrant, the legendary extraordinaire. One half of that which is Robert Foster, Gerald Baxter, Terrence Moonseed, and that which a lot of people know as the Juice Media rap news stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to check out his works. You can check out his YouTube channel, Hugo the Poet. You can check out some of his other stuff, which I'm sure you're aware of. Until next time, everyone, I've been wanting to do this podcast for quite some time. A lot of people have been waiting for this one, so be sure to share the frack out of this thing. Let's get this message out there, and let's blow this thing up. I want this to become Melbourne's premier disseminator of awesome information, and I would love to have more guests like yourself. You can hook me up with all your friends and whatnot, Hugo.
Yeah, well, it's been fun, Chris.
Yeah, I really appreciate you. Thank you, man. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Peace out. Let's keep it real, everyone. Until next time.
Indeed.
This is the Crucial Journey podcast. Ow!
Thank you.
Welcome.
You put water into a cup.
It was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it was great.
It was a really
You
good
put water
podcast.
into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You
Becomes
put
the
it in a
bottle.
teapot,
Like my
it becomes the
intro music.
Yeah, it's good.
And water
It's
can
good.
flow, or it can
Okay.
crash. See water,
I see
my
this
friend.
means not that we are inadequate.